Welcome to Getting Personal with Plant Medicine. I'm your host, Diana.
Diana's your name. And my name is JR. I'm the co-host.
I was going to say your name, but then that would be stealing a bit from another podcast, which is way more popular than we are. So if anyone's listening...
It's done once on the Weekly Planet. I heard them do it.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the new way. I don't know.
This was like 3 years ago, I think.
Okay, it's not the new way. It's the old way.
We're bringing it back old school.
So, like I said, this is Getting Personal with Plant Medicine in case you can't tell. And you are listening to one of our seedling episodes. So if this is your first time, these are not our normal sized episodes.
Yeah.
And hello.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for listening. Our seedling episodes are just little highlight reels, a little snapshot of something that we are trying and loving and integrating into our lives, and something that we plan on doing a deeper dive about later in the season. So we're actually going to talk about something we have talked about. I said later in the season. We will revisit this because there is a lot of information around this particular fungi. So
we're gonna be going into a lot of fungi. Yeah. There's gonna be a party in here. There's gonna be so many fungi. So get prepared because we're really all in on the funguses now.
Is it funguses or fungi?
It's fungi.
Fungi.
I just didn't want to keep on saying it over and over again.
Okay. Well, we have gone over this fungi in a previous episode. It was a two-parter, basically. It was we talked about a lot of things in that episode, so it was only kind of a brief mention, a brief talk, and we're going to briefly talk about
that out.
Oh my god. Okay, so we are going to talk about reishi, which, as I mentioned, we discussed this in a previous episode because it was working with other mushrooms, functional mushrooms, but this one's the star today, and it's a star for a really good reason. A lot of times we talk about certain plant medicines on here, on this podcast, that seem like they're too good to be true. And I have to say, this is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
I had no idea that reishi was such a powerhouse until I was gifted a lovely set of teas for Valentine's Day by my paramour, also my co-host. I'm being goofy today.
I'm being so goofy.
Reishi is also known as Ganoderma.
Did not know that.
Now there are other words associated with it, other classifications that I can't pronounce.
The mushroom of immortality is what it's considered.
That there it is considered that. But I'm saying that there are other classifications that I can't even begin to pronounce. So we're going to go with Ganoderma because that's the easiest and the more general. There are a lot of different species of reishi. We're not going to go into all of that today.
This is just a seedling episode.
Yes. But like I said, we both have been using it over the past few days. And it was like an instant impact. Like I felt like we felt it immediately. Yeah,
I can say, so I'm currently getting over being sick. So last month I was sick with a cold and it really hit me hard. It hit me for like an entire week. Just absolutely destroyed me. So this time around, thankfully I kind of saw it coming because our A tiny human came home from school with a runny nose and then proceeded to sneeze and cough directly into my face. So it was like, as soon as it happened, I was like, there's a ticking clock here going down. So beforehand, we actually tried the tea, the reishi tea. And I personally think that it kind of limited the amount of time that I was sick. It helped with that immunity boost, kind of made me feel a little bit calm and relaxed. Even while I was sick, I didn't have that agitated feeling. I mean, when I get sick, I turn into a big baby, and it didn't erase that. I was still being a very huge baby these past 2 days. But
plant medicine's not going to change your whole personality.
Yeah, but it did limit kind of the crankiness a little bit, and just the discomfort in the body. It helped limit that by drinking the tea. But it did absolutely, I feel, limit the amount of time that I was sick.
Did it?
I think it did. I think it did.
So you might find this to be a fun fact.
All right.
I
I love fun facts.
Traditionally, reishi was hung in the entranceway of homes to help keep bad spirits from entering, and it was associated with good luck. When someone was married, they would send them home, or they would send them to their new home with reishi.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's a fun fact. That's a very fun fact.
So I'm just going to go down this list.
Go down this list.
You can help me with it. There are so many potential benefits, and I'm actually going to use this quote. We talked about before how it seems like it's a little unbelievable, and the book, which I will show you if you can see, this book is fantastic for anyone who is curious about mushrooms. It's called Christopher Hobbs' Medicinal Mushrooms, The Essential Guide, and boy, is it ever. But from the book, the quote is that in discussing these effects, these are biological effects that have been proven through vivo and in vitro studies. Reads like something of a panacea, which is one of my favorite words of all time.
It's a fun word.
Panacea. So
I like amalgamation.
But panacea is great because it's saying that this mushroom is basically offering all the things. It sounds like it's unbelievable.
No, I wasn't saying we should use amalgamation for this instance. I just like that word. I think it's a fun word to say.
I also like amalgamation as well.
It's fun to say.
It is fun to say.
Yeah.
Not as fun as panacea, in my opinion.
More fun saying amalgamation.
All right, well.
I guess this is the end of it. I guess we're just going to have to end it now.
Either one could work almost, though, because it's an amalgamation of effects.
Yeah.
It's also a panacea, right?
Yes, of effects.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. So we're getting way off track.
Yeah.
Okay, so
let's talk about some of these benefits.
Right. So it can benefit the heart. It regulates cholesterol and blood sugar levels.
Mm-hmm. It stunts viral growth.
Activates the immune function.
Mm-hmm. Reduces inflammation and protects against free radicals, not the band, but the thing inside the body, and tissue damage.
You're trying to distract me. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Okay, anyway. It inhibits tumor growth.
Relieves pain.
Protects liver.
Relieves anxiety, insomnia, and depression.
Improves cognitive function.
Improves energy.
And benefits the lungs and respiratory tract.
Now, this is something I did want to jump into real quick. Just because I'm going to jump into it. So I used to work in the medical industry. I wasn't like a doctor or anything like that. So I'm coming from this
well,
in
you
a very...
anything like you were... Anyway.
Not a doctor.
You were not a doctor, but you were doing a lot more than...
So anyway. I wasn't. Okay. But this is coming from a very like authentic spot. I don't...
Okay.
Because I don't want it to look like I'm talking bad about the medical, because I still respect the medical field with Western medicine. But something that happens a lot, especially when people get cold and they might have an upper respiratory virus. A lot of the times they'll call the doctor and they'll demand things like antibiotics. A lot of times, even good doctors I've seen basically just get tired of arguing with people and they prescribe them antibiotics. So for one, if you have a viral infection like a cold An antibiotic isn't going to help that whatsoever at all. So what is essentially going to happen is, and also times with lung and respiratory tract issues, there's viral bronchitis and there's bacterial bronchitis. And a lot of times what people are experiencing is viral bronchitis. So yet again, an antibiotic isn't going to do anything for that person. I've said in the past that I don't disagree fully with Western medicine, but I do believe that people are over medicated through Western medicine. And this is one of those situations where people are often given just antibiotics, basically just to quiet them. And what that does is, for one, if you're taking an antibiotic and you don't have a bacterial infection, you're just creating a system inside your body where your body becomes basically reluctant to the effects of antibiotics. And then things like MRSA and stuff like that are created. Also, what happens is a lot of times people will get an antibiotic, which is prescribed to go for 10 days, 10 to 14 days. After a cold subsides, after 5 days, they think it's done and they stop taking their antibiotics anyway. So yet again, you're creating a system inside your body where your body is basically getting immune to the effects of an antibiotic. So we have these super bacterias coming along that are wiping people out, things like MRSA and other ones, and we're creating a situation where years into the future, antibiotics aren't going to be beneficial to us anymore because we're being overprescribed them. Because even good doctors just are tired and they just don't feel like arguing with people all day over it. So they just give it to them to quiet them, thinking no harm, no foul, even though big harm, big foul. So when you're cold and you feel like you have that upper respiratory infection, something much more beneficial would be reishi, things like that. And that's why I believe in the marriage of Western medicine and more holistic medicine, because if we can get people in the mind frame of this isn't something that needs a synthesized pharmaceutical to take care of, this can be taken care of at home, and then that allows your body to only get those things like antibiotics when it's necessary, so that we don't create an atmosphere in which our body stops basically being benefited by them. So, with reishi, with its benefit for limiting a viral load with some viruses, shortening the amount of time that you are sick, increasing your immune support system, and helping with your breath and respiratory, that's something that's 10 times more beneficial than any antibiotic that they're going to give you, whether it be amoxicillin or zithromycin. Z-Paks are very popular with people that think they have bronchitis. Before you jump to that, try something like reishi tea or other forms of it. It can really benefit you in a great way.
And when you're looking for tea, it's really important to make sure that you're looking for certain things in the label, like Ganoderma lingzer, which we talked about is the label we're looking for here. Wild species can be used for medicine, but because of the chemical variability in different strains of the same species, as well as in different species growing on particular trees in widely differing habitats, it is difficult to say that one is better for the lungs, another better for cardiovascular system, and yet another for insomnia and anxiety, because they haven't all been tested side by side in humans. So the author is saying, my experience tells me that most reishi-like species will have some traditional effects, but I still recommend using the red reishi most commonly found in the trade and Chinese herb shops, which has the G. Lingzer as a starting point, right? So it's important to pay attention to that. Also, make sure that it's tested for purity and beta glucans. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly. Also, it should be coming from the fruiting body of the plants, either mycelium or a fruiting body. So those are just a couple.
Yeah. And also, if you just want to take it too, just on a purpose to relax at night with some tea.
Tea is the recommended.
Yeah, I personally found that drinking it gave me a very calm, relaxed feeling. But it also gave me like a very appreciative property to it. You know, it's not like some things where you take for anxiety where you kind of begin to disassociate. You kind of get that high feeling. With this, I was very
What are you
aware.
taking for anxiety?
What are you talking about? That's what everything for anxiety can wipe you out.
Like pharmaceuticals?
Pharmaceuticals and plant medicine too, like CBD does it, but cannabis, yeah.
Some people say that cannabis makes their anxiety worse.
I mean, depending on what.
Well, this isn't
This is an episode about cannabis.
that,
But anyway, you know, with taking it, like, I just found myself like appreciating the moment more. You know, I was relaxed, I was calm, but I wasn't pulled out of the situation. I was very fully aware and you know, on point with what was going on. So
It made me very aware of what was going on.
Yeah.
I actually, I don't find that it helps me go to sleep. And for good reason, because when I researched this more, because I have taken it in the past combined with other functional mushrooms, and it was supposed to help with sleep, but it did not. And I couldn't figure it out. And now, upon further research, I have found that it actually helps with your energy. Now, obviously, it's an adaptogenic situation, so it might be different. Well, not. It is different for everybody. Like everybody has their own.
and then what else you have in your system as well.
Right.
I probably got more of a calming effect from it because I also had kava like a half an hour before that. But really, what I was looking at is that just it allowed me to be fully present in the situation.
I guess I should be more specific that when I was talking about the Ganoderma lingzer, that is a specific species. It's not all of the species, but it is the one that is used most frequently. I just want to make sure that that's clear, that people don't think that I don't know what I'm talking. I don't really know what I'm talking about all the way. I only kind of do, but that's why this is supposed to be a seedling and not a full episode. But now
And that's why it's getting personal. Well, I mean, a lot of it's being cut off because of what happened earlier. But this is why it's getting personal plant medicine, because a lot of times we're learning with you all. We're not, you know, we bring in people that like know a whole lot about stuff, but we're not encyclopedias of all plant medicine. So a lot of times we're learning with y'all. We're learning something and then coming in and doing a podcast about it. And then we're going to continue to learn more and then do more podcasts about it. We're getting personal with the plant medicine. You see?
Because it is a very personal experience, but it also is so much easier when you have community support. You know, we're your community is what that's why we started this podcast. We want to be a community and help other people and have them help us learn as we go along. So on that note, that's a good place to end.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Bye, everybody.
Subscribe to Reishi Media.